This video is brought to you with the support of TrueFire. Learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Hi, this is Keith Williams. Welcome to 5 Watt World, where we're interested in helping you get the most music from the least gear. What led to the release of the venerable Les Paul Deluxe? And why did Gibson not build what everyone was asking for at the time, a full-size humbucking version of the Sunburst finished Les Paul? It's a good story. So if you've always wondered about what led to the small humbucker Les Paul, you're in the right place, because this is the 5 Watt World short history of the Gibson Les Paul Deluxe. If you like this style of video, be sure to subscribe, and to support what we do, grab a t-shirt, hoodie, or a 5 Watt World Barber Collaboration overdrive pedal. If you're a musician who's always wanted to have your own YouTube channel but didn't know where to start, buy my YouTube Mastery for Musicians course. It's all the things I wish I'd known when I started. And to become an even bigger part of 5 Watt World, sign up for the Friends of 5 Watt on Patreon. There's a friend level to suit any budget. All the links are in the description. It's hard to believe that the Les Pauls we so revere today sold so poorly at the end of the 1950s that Gibson dropped them in favor of the new SG body style in '61. They couldn't have known that artists in the early 60s would begin using the late 50s guitars so visibly on the television that it was exploding at the time. First, Keith Richards used one, and then, monumentally, Eric Clapton played a 60 Les Paul through a cranked Marshall combo amp on John Mayall's Beano album. And that changed everything. It sent musicians all over the world scrambling to buy a classic two-humbucker Gibson Les Paul standard. Unfortunately, there were only around 1,720 58, 59, and 60 Les Paul bursts built. And so as players scrambled to get one of those few guitars, Gibson was trying to sell them an SG. And certainly many great players picked up an SG, but an SG is not a Les Paul. When Gibson finally got around to it, instead of putting out the two-humbucker guitar the world wanted, they decided to release a gold top with P90s and a two-pickup custom. Whether the choice of P90s was to set it apart from the Uptown Custom, as they'd done with some models in the past, we'll never know. The reissue original-style Les Pauls were launched at the 1968 Summer NAMM show. The custom listed for $545, and the gold top, which was then called the Standard, was listed for $395. They even brought Les Paul himself to play a set at the show for the re-release. The promotional material admitted that the demand for the old Les Pauls just won't quit. Production ramped up from 125 Les Pauls a month to 100 Les Pauls a day. Clearly the pent-up demand was there. The only confusion was why Gibson had decided to build the wrong model. But this was occurring at exactly the same time as Gibson's parent company, CMI, was merging with another company and becoming Norlin. The transition would take about 5 years to complete, but leadership during this time moved from instrument builders to MBA types, and the lack of clear leadership might explain the choices that they made. The outcry from the marketplace for a humbucking standard led to a short life for the re-release P90 gold top. And in 1969, the Les Paul Deluxe took its place, marking the first new name for a Les Paul model in 14 years. The Deluxe came about as a direct result of Gibson's marketing managers, who were being told by dealers that they wanted a full-size humbucking Les Paul. And while they were at it, they'd prefer a Sunburst finished instead of the gold, because that's what Clapton, Bloomfield, and the rest had used. The project was given to Jim Derlew, who by 1969 was the head of the pattern shop in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Derlew had joined Gibson back in 1958 at the dawn of the burst guitars, so who better to fill this backlog of demand for a Les Paul? He was given the task of providing the planned deluxe model with humbuckers, but he was not given any money for retooling the production line. So how could he squeeze a humbucking pickup in the existing P90 route of the guitar? He settled on the solution of using a mini humbucker pickup of the type that they'd been using on some Epiphone models across this time. Gibson had acquired Epiphone in 1958 and began producing Epiphone models on the same lines in Kalamazoo as the Gibson models. The Epiphone Riviera model is in many ways an ES335 fitted with mini humbucking pickups instead of the full-size humbucking pickups of the Gibson model. But by '69, the Epiphone line was being greatly reduced in production because they cost nearly as much to build as the Gibsons. By 1970, Gibson would phase out the production of all US-made Epiphones, moving the brand to overseas production only. Derlew managed to squeeze the mini humbucker into the route by cutting a hole in the P90 cover and dropping in the mini, all using parts they now had in excess. This worked, and everyone at Gibson was happy. The guitars looked relatively traditional, the pickup was in fact humbucking, and there was no retooling costs. guitars were quite heavy and included the pancake bodies that ran from 69 to 75, though they can be seen on guitars as late as 79. Named such because of 2 layers of mahogany with a thin strip of maple between them. This is likely due to Gibson trying to save money by buying thinner planks of mahogany. At its introduction in the September 1969 price list, the Deluxe showed at $425. At first, the Deluxe was only available in a gold top, but gradually a cherry sunburst, wine red, and other colors were introduced. The model lasted in that first production run until 1982. There were little tweaks across the entire line, which included embossing the word Gibson on the top of the pickups in 71 and 72. Around 75, Gibson would begin using maple necks on all the Les Pauls, including the Deluxes built from 75 until the early 80s, when it reverted to mahogany for the last couple of years of the run. And it's noticeable that they also built left-handed Deluxes across the 69 to 84 timeline as well. By the mid-70s, Gibson was moving Les Paul production to the new Nashville plant, and one of the 2 models released in 76 was the Les Paul Pro Deluxe, effectively a Deluxe with P90 pickups and an ebony fingerboard. Was built in large quantities at Nashville from 76 to 84. According to the Gibson shipping records, which are only available from 71 to 79, they sent out over 30,000 Deluxe Les Pauls across that time period. I reached out to TrueFire to be my sponsor because I've used them for years. I'm currently having fun going through Jim Capolongo's Sonic Tele course. With over 2 million users worldwide, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level player, TrueFire has lessons to enhance and inspire your playing. Get 35% off courses using the promo code 5watt35, or like I do, sign up for the All Access Pass to use the entire TrueFire catalog. I really like TrueFire, and I think if you give them a shot, you'll like them too. Sign up using the link in the description to support 5 Watt World and get some great lessons at the same time. I'd like to thank TrueFire for their support in making this video. The majority of famous players using a Deluxe did so in the 1970s. Founder and lead guitarist with the Atlanta Rhythm section, Barry Bailey, used a 69 Les Paul Deluxe as his main guitar in that band. Jeff Carlisi from 38 Special was inspired by Barry Bailey's tone and got his own Deluxe. Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy famously used a 72 Deluxe, though he's likely one of the top 2 Deluxe users cited. Gorham actually said in interviews that a Deluxe was the only Les Paul he could afford at first, later switching to a Standard when he could afford one. By some accounts, his bandmate, Brian Robertson, loved his 73 Deluxe, which he bought shortly after joining the band. Steve Hackett from Genesis used a Deluxe after his Custom was stolen between 72 and 74. This was before he bought his 57 Gold Top in 74. He first had a Sunburst Deluxe, which was also stolen, and then a Gold Top Deluxe, which became the backup for the 57 later on. And Pete Townsend moved to using Deluxes when Gibson changed the specs of his beloved SG Specials. He used a number of Deluxes out on tour from 72 to 79. Though he'd played a Gretsch 6120 in the studio on Who's Next, it is these modified Les Paul Deluxe guitars that would be seen on the footage of the band out on the road, and it would be the thing that cemented a Les Paul Deluxe in the mind of my young guitar-playing self. Townsend made many changes to the standard Deluxes, including numbering them with stickers to indicate different tunings and capo settings. His guitars became known for their versatility, which came from using 3 pickups and 2 added toggle switches. A DiMarzio dual sound humbucker was added in the middle that could be switched to single coil mode via one switch, or on and off with the other switch. In 2005, the Gibson Custom Shop released several signature Les Paul Deluxe models to honor Townsend, including a number 1 in wine red, the number 3 Gold Top, and the number 9 in Cherry Sunburst. The number 9 was a limited edition of only 75 guitars. Jeff Lynne used a 72 Deluxe on the Electric Light Orchestra's Out of the Blue record in 1979. And on the heavier side, Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden bought a 72 or 73 Deluxe in the mid-70s when he was 17 or 18 years old. He remembered that he paid £235 for it, and it is to this day his favorite guitar. If we included all the Deluxes that were routed out for full-size humbuckers, we'd be here all day. But few are too important to miss. Ace Frehley bought a 73 Deluxe in Tobacco Sunburst with Kiss's first album's advance money in 73 at Manny's Music in New York City, along with a 100-watt Marshall. It had already had the humbucking-size pickups installed, so it was likely a used guitar. Tom Scholz from the band Boston famously used a late 68 Deluxe that he'd stripped off the gold top finish to give the guitar more resonance. He then routed it out for a full-size humbucker in the bridge and slotted a P90 in the neck. This was Scholl's main guitar for both recording and on the road. And Neil Schon used a 77 Les Paul Pro Deluxe on Journey's Escape and Frontiers albums. It's the guitar that you hear on Stone in Love and Who's Crying Now. He said he was the first person to add a Floyd Rose to a Les Paul. He loved the snap of the 70s maple neck mixed with the Floyd. The pickups were swapped out multiple times over the years and had full-size humbuckers when it was sold at auction in 2021 for $250,000. And on a more current note, guitarist with the band Social Distortion, Mike Ness, uses his 76 Gold Top as his main guitar, but like many before him, he swaps out the pickups to taste, in his case, a pair of Duncan P90s. The 76 Deluxe serves as the basis for his custom shop signature model as well. Fast forward to the early 90s, and Gibson was full on trying to create the earliest of their burst reissue guitars, with guys like Edwin Wilson and JT Riboloff in the newly formed custom shop. Riboloff is famous for saying, "It got to the point where we realized we wanted it more to be a replica than a reissue." By 93, they had put 8 Les Paul models back in the lineup. One of these was a small run of Deluxes. It would then be cataloged in a few short and limited runs until 2008. In 1999 and 2000, there was a 30th anniversary run. And in 2007, there was a short run of Guitars of the Week and Gold Top Deluxes with a bound headstock and in mid-2000s chambered bodies. In 2015, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Les Paul contribution to guitars, there was a production run of Deluxes in Gold, Wine Red, Pelham Blue, and Heritage Cherry Sunburst. These featured a redesigned humbucker pickup that included coil splitting for extra tonal range. It's interesting to note these pickups have no visible pull pieces, giving off something of a Firebird pickup vibe. There was also a Tune-O-Matic bridge with titanium saddles for increased sustain. Those in the know will remember that in 2015, the production Gibson Electric shipped with a wider fingerboard, but with the same string spacing, generally a love it or hate it thing. This Pelham Blue is a real heartstopper for me, but the usual 10-pound weight takes care of any lust I'd have for this model year. 2018 saw a Les Paul Deluxe Players Plus model with a AA maple top in Wine Red and Satin Ocean Blue. I even stumbled on a limited custom shop run of Deluxes in Red Sparkle, just 75 guitars built in 2018. Non-chambered, the one I came across weighed a solid 1970s approved 9.5 pounds. But oh, that red sparkle finish. And in 2020, they added the original collection 70s Deluxe back to the catalog, where it remains for now in Gold and Wine Red. These non-weight relief current production guitars run the nostalgic Norland era weights of just under 9 pounds to 10 pounds. Part of the appeal, perhaps. As part of an experiment this past year, my buddy David Barber from Barber Electronics suggested that I needed to try to become a Les Paul player. He contended that if I was going to understand the depth of love for the Les Paul, I owed it to myself to really try to get to know one. His opinion was that to do so, I had to play it for a couple of months. And so I looked around at my favorite stores, places where I can trust the sales guy to check out the guitar and give me a straight opinion. And I found my way to this Les Paul Deluxe at Watchtower Guitars. From their Guitar of the Week and run in 2007, it has the chambered body construction that keeps the weight at just over 8 pounds. I played that Deluxe and only that Deluxe for 2 months. I like a variety of music, and I took TrueFire lessons in blues, jazz, rock, and even a course in bluegrass to help build my country chops. And I got all the tones I needed in that Deluxe. It's just a touch brighter than a full-size neck humbucker, and has a little bit sharper attack on the bridge as well. And a gold top seems to be the perfect color for a one-guitar Les Paul collection. And if, like me, you started playing guitar on a steady diet of film clips of Pete Townsend windmilling away on his customized guitars, a Deluxe is the Les Paul you'd think of first. First, I need to thank my friend Eric Hagen for borrowing a buddy's Deluxe to record the intro and outro music for the video. If you aren't watching Eric's channel, check it out. I need to thank the good people at Carter Vintage for permission to use clips of folks playing 70s Deluxes in various forms. Tony Bacon's The Les Paul Guitar Book and Dave Hunter's The Gibson Les Paul were invaluable in pulling together the script. If you're interested in starting your own YouTube channel, remember to check out my course, YouTube Mastery for Musicians. I outline all the parts of starting a channel there. It's the head start I wish I'd had. I want to thank everyone that stopped by the online store and grabbed some merch or a 5-watt World Barber Electronics Collaboration overdrive pedal. You keep the channel going. And in particular, I need to thank the Friends of 5-Watt on Patreon. It's the guitar community I've always wanted. You're all 5-Watt World. I just make the video. If you enjoyed this short history of the Gibson Les Paul Deluxe, hit the like button. And if you like this kind of video, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for hanging with me until the end. Until next time, I'm Keith Williams. Thanks for being a part of the 5-Watt World.